Hello, Cherie.
Hello, Tia.
I'm so happy we're together.
Oh, so happy.
You are the 45th guest on the Arrive at Happy Leaders show.
Oh my
And
God.
I am so excited and honestly just thrilled for my community to get a little taste of the wisdom and joy that is you. And I want to just start off by asking you to just share your story, where you've been and where you're going.
Oh gosh, it's so good to be with you. And I just have to start by saying thank you, thank you, thank you for the work that you do.
Oh,
We need you so much in the world. And the world just got better with that book behind you coming out.
thank you.
So, my story, let's see, I think we could go all the way back to childhood and just that I was born here, I think, with a burning question in me to figure out how not to waste a single minute of this life. I've always been just super wondering why people don't really truly get, I think, the gift of being alive, or what the gift is here to be experienced. Alan Watts always talks about how if people really remembered why they were here, they'd remember we're here to have the time of our lives. And that's in spite of all the craziness and chaos that we're in right now, that still, like, there's an art to life that would have you just be in awe and wonder all the time, the joy and the happy, no matter what's going on. And so as a kid, I was constantly talking about that and trying to find the answers to, like, what are we here for? What is this all about? And the church couldn't answer. My parents couldn't answer. All the books and philosophy and theology that I could study, that I'd get my hands on, finally started coming into being when I was around, like, in my 20s, in 25. And I met my guru. I lived in an ashram. I just dove deep into these ancient studies of what it is to be conscious and alive. And right about that same time, I'd studied marketing. So I'd wanted to study psychology, but my dad was like, you're never going to make any money in psychology, so you should go to business school. And I split the deal and I was like, fine, I'll go into business, but I'll study marketing, which is business psychology.
Right.
And then every single extra elective and all of my own curation of my own education was around philosophy and psychology and understanding the human experience. And so then life coaching literally came out right as I graduated. It was like Tony Robbins wrote the book, Awaken the Giant Within, and he called himself a life coach. And I was like, hang on, this is no fair. Now I'm out of school. And this is the job I want. Like, to be a life coach, what does that mean? Talk about life all day long? I'm already doing that. Like, that's what I've done my whole life, is just good talks, good talks about why we're here. So I signed up immediately to start studying life coaching, like in California, like the first life coaching institute.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait a minute. And if I really had a good coach at that time, they would have talked me out of this. But this was a limiting belief that I thought, I am too young to be telling people how to live. I've barely lived myself. And so that's when, I mean, boy, like the PhD level postgraduate study began of, I'm going to get my hands on every single tool that I can get my hands on while working at companies. I was working, my day job was doing this as a creative director, at startups. I was in the internet and I was helping companies build brands from the inside out. So creating culture. That was the beginning of, like, what might be, what Google came out as a leader of great corporate culture. And so that's what I was super obsessed with. I was like, life coaching meets work. How do we work? And I learned back then that we spend 90,000 hours at our jobs. And I was alarmed because I didn't know a lot of people who really loved their jobs.
Yeah.
And that just felt like a tragedy to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a really high bar for if I'm going to teach anything, if I want to say anything, like I better be well versed. I better be well studied or practiced on it, you know? And so I just studied my face off. I spent the thousands of dollars on workshops, which you've been into.
Yes. Oh, I'm with you on that train.
The training. I was a total growth junkie, you know? And then at some point I remember pulling the plug on being in companies in service within companies. I felt like I'm going to ultimately have the impact I'm here to have by jumping out and building my own business and serving many companies, not just one, many leaders.
Right.
And so that's when I launched the Luminaries and met you and all these amazing humans who really want to change the world. And I feel like I'm living the dream.
Well, you're living the dream and helping people create others. So we, you know, I would say, you know, partnered, came together, and I'm sure many others felt your, I'm going to use the word magic.
Wow.
And you've been working with leaders with global companies and entrepreneurs for over 15 years. How would you describe your magic?
What a word. I say that a lot to a lot of leaders who are very corporate-y. You know, they're in high tech or they're in entertainment.
Yeah.
And I have to tell them, like, look, you just have to buckle up because what's going to come is nothing short of magic. I can't really describe it any other way. It's miraculous. It's surprising. It's wondrous. It's awe-inspiring. And we're just going to allow for that. I just warn them because none of us know exactly how it's going to occur. When you and I started to work together, we didn't know that book was going to be sitting behind you.
Right.
We knew you were here to blaze a torch for happiness, but the way it unfolded, the how, was where the magic comes in, you know? So if I was to describe mine, it's, I always say the greatest career strategy is to go where you'll be used for your essence. And I am being used for my essence. I think I am in my purpose so fully. And so that's where the magic comes from, is I am completely aligned with what I'm here to do on the planet. I have this overflowing joy for being alive. And that has got to be caveated, because people will see me and be like, oh, great, little white blonde lady who's privileged. You must have had a really simple life. I have been through all the things. Life has been a study of darkness for me, a deep, dark, and loads of bumps and needing to survive the whole way. And it's a choice that in my essence, I'm here to celebrate being alive. That's what we would call it. Gail Larson would call that original medicine, that we all have a gift to give that if not shared is lost to the world forever. And you know, Gail.
Yes.
You know? So mine is celebration. And I think when that gets put to use with this, you know, I'm an Enneagram 7, which is the enthusiast, you know, I'm like, cannot be contained if I tried. I want everyone to be free. I think that that's what I'm here to do, is to help people be free to be who they're here to be and do what only they can do in life. And I am so devoted to that. It's being an entrepreneur, you know, it's a lot. You wear every hat and it's so much work, but I don't feel like it's too hard. Like, you know, there's this unlocking of a wellspring of energy that you get when you're doing what you're here to do on the planet.
Oh, yes. Yes. I fully agree. And what I'm hearing you say is that by showing up with your original medicine, right? You're in full alignment. You have this overflowing joy. And we haven't said you're a possibilitarian.
Yeah.
Right. So when someone or many people, groups, right, are with you and partnering with you and working with you, that you unlock the possibilitarian within them.
Yeah.
And that the really limitless possibilities, right? And seeing through, of course, everyone, you're talking about darkness, right? Of that there's peaks and valleys of that. There's also, you didn't say it, but that you show people or remind people of their inner strength and their superpowers.
That's right. That's why it's a tricky question, because it's not about me. I feel like the concept behind the luminaries is that, my light could shine on your life, your darkness, your light, whatever, and light up the possibilities that you might have missed, that you might have forgotten, that you maybe don't believe in, because that's the trick. People don't get where they want to go or reach their potential because they don't believe it's possible or they don't know how. And I just come in and I'm like, oh, it's so possible. And we're not responsible for the how. We're going to do all these things. Like, we have these success cycles, these upward spirals that I light. I'm like the spark that lights that up. And once they get into that spiral, which we would call like a flow state, they're golden. And the how appears. All we have to do is remind them what they want, what they long for, what they desire, what's that burning dream in them. And then I tell them a bunch of stories about people like you who've done it. I think stories help illuminate the path, that people could go, well, if she could do it, I could do it. Maybe it's not so hard, and with all these little tools and tricks, there's a lot of training in like neuro-linguistic programming and ways, that I open people up, that I bring their subconscious into alignment with their conscious. And then we just sort of like let the obstacles fall away.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, no, absolutely. The story, thinking of the story, another person that you had worked with before was Tracy Raftery, right? And Knockout. And I saw this story of her and I was like, oh my gosh, there's an example like Tracy can, I can, right? Yeah. It's like you can't help but be lit up by that, right? And I think that's also Gail's magic of, right, everything of the stories.
Yeah. And I think what's also so interesting is now we're looking at that at an organizational level, that what's really important now, especially now, God, at this moment in human history, is that with great power comes great responsibility. And you see these companies, the big companies that are running our show right now, if they don't wake up to their potential, if they don't grow out of their own adolescence of just, wanting all the money and all the power and all, they have to start using this corporate social responsibility, right, to light up the planet, to show that there's a better way to do business.
Right.
Yeah. Right. More sustainable for all, and more happiness and joy inducing for everybody within those organizations. There is a better way.
Absolutely. So what would you say to someone who wants to explode their joy while working and while living? Because you have joy just coming out of you. So yeah, what and a lot of people are facing different kinds of challenges right now, right? And the world needs more joy. So yeah, can you share your advice and just boosting that joy while working, while living?
Yeah. God, it's such a good question and such an important one right now, because I've dealt with, I think my whole life, really, the resistance that people have to joy and happiness, this like unbelievable, it's like a little switch in us that we've been fed this story of life is hard. That's what my dad always used to tell me. Life is hard, kid, then you die, and it's a struggle. And it's rough out here, this earth school. We know. But I used to really battle with that duality of like, is it good? Is it bad? Is it supposed to be great? Is it supposed to be hard? It's supposed to be both. It's both. And it's in, like, if anybody has not read the Book of Joy by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, you need to get your hands on it.
I have it behind.
I know you've read it, because in that, the greatest teaching of that book was when His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu talk about the doorways to joy, that the only way that they can actually know joy in this lifetime is through the hardships that they've been through, the very scary being exiled, being put in jail. All the darkest hours were the ones that actually taught them joy. you know? So I think that's the torch that I actually hit it for a long time in all of my decks. I'd go to companies like Google and these big tech orgs like YouTube, and I'd have decks, you know, I'm giving a talk, and on like slide 31, I talk about joy. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm hiding the message. You know, I now start with it on slide 1. I'm not apologizing for it anymore. And I know that people will be blocked to it because they want to say it's Pollyanna, you know, pie in the sky. That's something maybe I'll experience when I'm retired, or lucky you know, I don't have that. It is a choice. It is 100% a choice. I think first off, that's what people need to know, is that if you want it, I believe we all were born as kids. We know it. It's our essence. It's our nature. I will do corporate retreats, and I'll have this team of leaders, and I do this exercise to get at their core values. And it's super tricky. I don't say, let's discuss your corporate values or your shared team values. I ask these questions that get at it from the heart, sideways. And every single time, at least 2 of the corporate team values are love and joy, love and happiness. And then they're like, well, that's not a corporate value. How do we put this in our website, you know? And I'm seeing more and more companies are actually owning.
Yeah, I'm seeing more love, definitely.
Love, yes. Yeah. And so these are human beings that are working in these companies. And if human beings' core desire are to experience happiness and joy in this lifetime, we've got to bring them together. You can't, you know, in the old days, in the industrial era, the information age, we would leave that stuff at home. You know, you come to work and you be in your work mode.
Right.
You know, why I've never called myself a career coach or a health coach or a well-being coach, or I'm a life coach, and that includes work.
Right.
And there's no seam between those two for me.
I always say I load the term work-life balance, because I say work is a part of life. It's not like you have a life and then you have work. It's life.
Yeah.
Right? Just
It's
like
life.
family's a part of life, just like partnerships, friendship, whatever, all of it. It's
Right.
life.
Right. And so take the knowing that 90,000 hours at least will be spent at work. Are you willing to not have joy there? Is that supposed to be a slog just to get the money? You have to believe that you can do both. That really, truly, it takes just a little tweak, millimeter shift here and there to get you in alignment with the possibility, the belief that you can do work at your pace, within your essence, in pursuit of your highest potential, hopefully surrounded by others who want the same.
Right.
And then we have the case studies. The results are off the charts,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but I think that's what I would say is want it. And then surround yourself with people like us who can help you get there, who can help you believe again.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I also think it's an important responsibility for the younger generation, for them to see us in our joy as we're mamas, you know?
Right.
And I remember my son said to me years ago, like, you know, I questioned why he was on these video games all the time and just not paying attention to his studies at all. And he was like, hey, Mom, the way I see it is life just gets harder from here. I look at how hard you work. I look at, you know, how hard it's going to be in college and whatever, like now's my chance. And I was like, hang on, you know, like I'm shaking him like, don't you see how much fun I'm having?
Life just gets harder. He's like, it's a rocky road from here, Mom.
Please, let's not show them that.
Right.
We're not going to make it if that's the way it's going to be.
Right.
No.
Who wants to grow up, right? Everyone's going to have, Peter Pan and never want to be an adult. That's a really, really good, such a good point. And I remember you saying on one of our early calls, imagine if someone asks your kids, oh, what does your mom do for work? And your kids say, she makes people happier. She helps people be happier, right? As a nothing to do with going back to, right? Yes, money. Okay. There's things that follow and we need to pay bills and live and all of that. But if more humans can shift into this space in companies and also and entrepreneurs, right? All different types of work and shift to a space where it's helping others, lifting others up, earth and people, right? It's talk about we're in this world of a virus. That's contagious. That can be contagious. And we'll
It is. I feel like that is literally the
right?
antidote. It's the
Yeah.
brave ones right now who will say, you know what? Back in the day, there was a really, really, what was it? The bubonic plague. There was another moment in time, and we've seen this happen before. It's nothing quite like what we're going through now, but the Renaissance era came after that.
Mhm.
You know, and if we could imagine, and you read some of the ancient writing about this moment that we're in right now, we come through the age of darkness and we're coming into the age of truth. You know, we're coming into what I call the imagination age. And so we have this choice. You can take the cheapest seat in the house and be fear-based. You can read all the headlines and say, oh my God, we're going down.
Yeah.
Or you could be one of the ones who says, not on my watch. I didn't come to be born in this lifetime to go down. I know that there's a new world that's possible that's coming out of this. You can see it. There's so many people whose dreams are coming true right and left. There's this abundance, this wild world that's coming into being as we've all been sort of reckoning with our lives. A lot of people are considering leaving their jobs. A lot of people are considering leaving the country. That people are like, I don't know if what I was doing is something I want to go back to.
Right.
You know, so we're swimming in possibility.
I love it. I love it. One challenge that I used to struggle with, and I see a lot of leaders and working professionals, executives, parents, non-parents, just working humans in, let's say, North America, because there's, you know, different parts around the world, but let's just talk about North America. A challenge that I see is overwhelm, overwork, unbalanced. You work, you know, you're talking about the hours, working so much, and they're not connecting with their spirituality, their meaning and purpose, and they're not prioritizing time with loved ones, exercise, sleep. Everyone I talk to is, the majority, so many people are sleep deprived, right? And so what advice do you have for people that really want to be healthy in all, you know, I would say in all sense? And I wrote down, you know, in alignment, in harmony, and get out of this state of overwhelm, overwork, anxious, stressed, tired,
Yeah.
you know, tight, right? I would even say like physically, right? So what advice do you have for that?
Oh, I mean, it's the theme du jour. Yeah. We are in this transition right now from one era to a new era. We are leaving, we have left. I'll tell everybody the train has left to the imagination age. We are not in the industrial era anymore. We are not in the information era anymore. We are in this imagination era, which means a new way of work is upon us. A new way of life is upon us. And it's a must-have. It's not something that's going to be negotiable for most. Some people will stay behind in what feels more like that machine-like working 80 hours a week,
Yeah.
grinding, burning out, going back, grinding again. You know, that is the hangover, that is the relic of assembly line thinking, you know, and great books like Daniel Pink's Whole New Mind. And, you know, there's a lot of great data around, you know, this shift that we're in that's causing a new way of high performance. That's what everybody loves to call it, you know, but I think what it looks like, and I've had to guide many leaders gently into this, because they'll say, okay, I know there's a new way. I can feel it. I know what I'm doing right now isn't sustainable anymore. I'm miserable. I'm unhealthy. My family is suffering.
Yeah.
But if I'd stop, somebody is going to bolt by me and take my job, or somebody is going to win and I will lose, because it looks like slowing down. Right. But I'm like, no, let's do a different metaphor. It's not that I'm asking you to just get off the train and that everybody else is going to keep on going. I'm telling people you can build the Wonder Woman invisible jet. This might date me a little bit, but back in the day,
Oh, no. Love the Wonder Woman.
In the invisible jet. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, that there's a different way that I call the flow state. that you in synergy, harmony, all these words
Yeah.
for being at our highest self, highest functioning, that I can break down. I mean, it's not hard. It's move this, move this, move this, and off you go. And I can tell you stories of people who've done it, who are now at the top of their game, living, doing the work of their lives, who've been promoted because of it. Because what it is, it's becoming magnetic. It's becoming somebody who's literally so in alignment, so in harmony within themselves, so well that everything becomes easier, less sweaty. I say, in order to do well, you have to be well. And people are like, not at my company. That's not what I've ever experienced. Right. But all it takes is one person to carry the torch for it. I had a client at Google who really said, I know I want to lead in this way, but I'm not given permission. And I said, don't ask for permission. Launch a well-being program for your team.
Your invisible jet.
Yes. And say, we're going together, and just watch. And just one move to do a 30-day well-being challenge for her team. And all the leaders were like, wait a minute, what are you doing? Why are the numbers skyrocketing? Why are you outperforming everyone else? And it was a hilarious question. They're like, can you PowerPoint for us what you're doing? And I was like, sure, we can. We can PowerPoint anything. We'll explain how we made this shift in consciousness that allowed for people to, what I always call it is upgrade your doing. Just upgrade it. You have an A game inside you that you don't even know. I mean, imagine if you've just been grinding and you're stressed. You're doing most of your work from the amygdala. You're at work doing great things as a reptile, and how are we supposed to solve for these global problems right now if everybody's in that fear, which is the lowest vibration, and depleted and not well slept? We need people who are in their prefrontal cortex, in their heart, fully online. What I always say is using all hands on deck, using all their superpowers, nobody holding back, which means a very different paradigm of somebody who's getting what they need at a high level, somebody who's getting what they want, what they desire. They're alive. Like, you're like, you and I do things on a daily basis that juice us. They don't take any time, like music blasting in the morning, like movement, whatever we know turns us on. We treat like business strategies.
Right.
Right.
Yes. That's a shift that some people, right? But when you think of 8 hours of sleep, hiking with your partner, or going out dancing, or right, all of these are, you're in a corporation, you are an entrepreneur. This is part of your business plan, right?
Always working. Yeah. I consider I am always working, because when I'm on that hike, or I'm on the beach with my lover, I am getting downloads. My intuition is on fire. I'm like, I should have a notebook with me all the time. Like the founder of Patagonia wrote that book, right? Let My People Surf. He'd come around and be like, why are you guys sitting at your laptops?
Because that's where the ideas come, right? The neuroscience of insight is when you're away, and when you're breathing. And
that's right. We've got to choose to be alive, like next level. People, just don't think I'm normal because I have so much energy, but I'm stoking this. This is not, I'm doing things to keep this going so I can keep serving.
Yes. Yes.
And then people feel it, and then they want to work with you. And so think about, you show up to a team like this.
Yeah.
Eyes on fire. Let's do the things. And granted, people are probably also rolling their eyes at this and like, that's not natural or normal all the time. And of course, it's not that. You got to be on fire
to you too,
or it looks like me.
And
right. One of my other leaders is the most quiet. I'd call her like a professional listener. Like she comes into the room and she just tunes the room. Doesn't have to say a word. That's her version of this.
Right.
It's everybody's got their own,
like a certain, it's for you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so good. So that's, it's the shift, and it's the tweaks. It's not that you need to rethink, like you said, there's a really great book. I think it's coming out. It's in pre-order right now by this woman, Juliet Funt, and it's called A Minute to Think. And it's about all of these, just putting all these pockets throughout your day, instead of going Zoom to phone call to this, it's like putting in all of these minutes, just creating this white space. I think she calls it white space. Yeah.
I
And
called it with you that. I was telling you, white space to allow this dream to come
yes,
through.
yes. And I was like, I don't have any space. And you were like, you do. And I did, right?
Yep. Yep, we do. And people are probably listening to this going, I don't have any time. That's really great that you guys get to hike.
Right.
I'm telling you, take yourself back to when you fell in love, like maybe a moment when you just started a relationship.
Yeah.
Pre-relationship, you had a life and you had a schedule and all of this. And then all of a sudden you're in love with this person and you make time out of nowhere to go on dates and to have the sex and do all the things.
Right.
You manufacture time if you want, if you know that it will actually make everything else in life flow.
That's
and everything else in life will become easier.
Right. Right. And it's about, yeah, this priority, right? What you prioritize. And going back to this choice of, you can choose to continue to stay at the 80+ hours, the overwhelm, the burn. You can choose to stay there, right? Or you can choose to make a shift. And, you know, I always say, tomorrow is not a given. Like, I am very aware, and the awe, I think we should actually write about on my book. We share that, right? Of like, wow, I'm alive. And I think probably more with being a mom, I'm like, I could die tomorrow. And it sounds, as a happiness person, it's like, what? But I really think about that, right? Of like, you don't have any time to waste.
Beauty, you just nailed it, because the great wisdom traditions are all deeply aware of death. If you practice Buddhism, if you are, you know, in a Mexican tradition of Dia de los Muertos in, you know, Ireland, my heritage is like, you know, the wake, the celebration of death is the greatest party you'll ever have. You know, this awareness of mortality in India and in my yoga that I study, it's like right here. And that's actually what gives us the ability to experience our joy, because we have this moment. We have this moment and it's overwhelming. It's like, really now? You know, and that's just what I want people to get, is that just that hit, that remembrance that this is so precious. And as much as it feels like the world is totally falling apart and people are probably listening going, I have to pay the bills. I have been single momming, doing this all on my own, like facing all my fears over and over and over again, because of that knowing that we just don't know how lucky we are to be here. You know?
Yeah,
so why not shoot a little higher to just, if this was your last day, you know, would it be a meaningful one? Is this the way you really want to live? Because you can actually make those shifts and still make all the money, sometimes more, you know, when you're really being used for what you're here to give.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Cherie, I know that we're going to come back together very soon, because I know you are cooking up some even bigger magic right around the corner.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you for being part of my journey. And I shared that at the very front of this book. I just, Arrive and Happy would not have come to be without you and your magic and your joy, and reminding me of the possibilities, and reminding me of the inner child that was there, is still there. And so thank you for your time and your wisdom, and bringing all the joy today.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, love. It was so great to be with you. And I just hope that everybody feels like listening to this, that, you know, my tagline is bring it, the world needs you.
Yeah.
We need every single one of you. And if that just looks like that you decide to be a happier being on this planet, that's a gift to all of us. So I just want everybody to know that they deeply matter in creating this new world. And whatever you have to give, man, we need. So thank you for all that you're giving, Tia.
Of course.